Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here because today we're breaking down the exact financial architecture used to build wealth in America. If you've ever wondered how the wealthy actually grow their net worth year after year, well, it's not by magic, and it is rarely by accident. It's really all about understanding and acquiring specific types of value. Okay, let's dive into this. The 7 assets that make millionaires.
So, can you really save your way to millions? Look, for decades, the standard advice has basically been to skip your morning coffee, clip those coupons, stash your cash in a basic savings account, and just wait 40 years. But we need to shatter that myth right here, right now. While being financially responsible is definitely important, penny pinching alone simply doesn't lead to massive wealth. I mean, inflation constantly eats away at your purchasing power, and there's a hard limit to how much you can actually cut your expenses. Which opens up a huge curiosity loop, right? If saving isn't the primary engine for wealth, what do actual millionaires do instead?
Well, the answer to that myth really comes down to the number 7. Millionaires typically have 7 different income streams, and they generate these streams by completely shifting their life's focus. They stop obsessing solely over the concept of saving, and they start obsessing over the concept of acquiring assets. And an asset is simply something that puts money into your pocket, whether you're actively working at a desk or fast asleep in your bed. Today, we're going to outline exactly what those 7 assets are. To demystify all this, we're going to build our wealth pyramid. We'll start with the wealth building formula, move into paper assets and tangible wealth, explore builders like businesses and IP, dive into the new digital assets, and finally wrap up with the ultimate asset, your skills.
All right, part 1, the wealth building formula, breaking the myth of saving. Here's the absolute truth. You cannot save your way to millions. You must acquire assets. Before we look at the specific asset classes, we have to understand the fundamental mechanics of true wealth. If you work an hourly wage or a salary job, your income is permanently capped by the 24 hours in a day. You have a hard ceiling. But when you acquire an asset, it's like buying a relentless employee, one that works 24/7, never takes a vacation, and is constantly appreciating in value or kicking off cash. Acquiring assets is literally the only reliable wealth-building formula.
Moving right along to part 2, paper assets, equities, and funds, the true foundation of modern investing. There's a very clear contrast between the 2 primary ways people interact with the stock market. On one side, you have individual stocks. This represents our first millionaire asset. But picking single stocks is, well, honestly, it's high risk. You're trying to pick specific winners in a highly competitive market, and if that single company struggles, your money struggles. On the other side, we have asset number 2, index funds and ETFs. Now, what's really interesting about this comparison is that it's a highly calculated strategy. Instead of trying to find the needle in the haystack, you're just buying the entire haystack.
Think of a diversified ETF basket almost like a variety pack of your absolute favorite snacks. You aren't just eating one thing. You've got 30% tech, 20% healthcare, 20% finance, 15% consumer goods, and 15% energy. By holding a basket of the largest, most successful companies in the world, an ETF brilliantly mitigates risk. If the energy sector takes a hit one quarter, no problem. Your tech and healthcare holdings are right there to stabilize the portfolio. It's an incredibly powerful way to build wealth without needing to be some sort of Wall Street expert.
Okay, part 3, tangible wealth, real estate, physical properties that pay. So now we're moving from paper wealth to hard physical assets. While real estate obviously takes up literal physical space, and in a minute we'll look at incredible assets that take up none, it remains one of the most proven wealth generators in human history. This is millionaire asset number 3. Let's move to and see how this builds through the real estate wealth cycle. Step 1, you make a down payment, essentially controlling a massive, highly valuable asset for just a fraction of its total price. Step 2, you rent it out, creating tenant cash flow. Step 3, that rent pays down your mortgage, which means your tenants are basically the best kind of roommates, the ones who build your net worth for you month after month. And finally, step 4, property appreciation over time. It's a beautiful cycle.
On to part 4, builders, businesses, and IP. Creating value from scratch. This is where we transition into assets that require your creativity and structural building. Asset number 4 is the business itself. The core components we're talking about here are cash-flowing entities, scalable operations, brand value, and customer loyalty. Look, building a business is not about creating a stressful 80-hour-a-week job for yourself. It is about creating a scalable system. True wealth happens when operations are structured so well that the business eventually runs, scales, and profits completely without the owner's constant daily labor.
And intrinsically tied to businesses is asset number 5, Intellectual property, or IP. Think of IP as the valuable ideas born in your mind, things like patents, copyrights, and trademarks. This is an asset that takes up absolutely zero physical space, yet it generates massive, ongoing royalties every single time someone uses your idea, your software code, or your design. It's a true game changer.
I really want to pause on this quote for a second. True wealth is owning the systems and ideas, not just laboring within them. This just beautifully summarizes the immense leverage of owning businesses and intellectual property. The wealthiest individuals aren't necessarily working harder than the average person. They've simply shifted from being a cog in the machine to owning the machine itself.
Part 5. The New Frontier. Digital Assets. The Modern Economy's Gold Rush.
You know, the internet has completely rewritten the playbook for the modern entrepreneur, creating entirely new categories of wealth that simply didn't exist even a few decades ago. Welcome to asset number 6, digital assets. Looking at the landscape, you have code and software, which offers infinitely scalable revenue, meaning you build an app once and millions of people can download it. You have media and content, where you capture and monetize the attention of a massive global audience. And you have cryptography, representing decentralized value networks. And this brilliantly illustrates how we can take these abstract digital concepts and ground them in real-world monetary value. They might just live on servers, but I promise you, they generate incredibly real cash flow.
And finally, Part 6, the ultimate asset, your skills, the engine that powers the rest. We have officially arrived at the climax of our explainer. We've talked about stocks, funds, real estate, businesses, IP, and digital properties. But there is a shocking contrast when we look at return on investment. Traditional assets like index funds or real estate provide a solid, moderate return over time. But investing in high-income skills, that provides an exponential return. Buying a book, taking a course, or spending your weekends learning to code might cost a few $100, but it can increase your yearly salary by tens of thousands of dollars. Upgrading your own skills yields the highest dividends of absolutely any asset class.
So that brings us to asset number 7, high-income skills. These are the specific, highly valuable engines you can build today to fuel all your other investments. We're talking about sales and negotiation, copywriting, coding and tech, public speaking, and financial literacy. These are completely crash-proof. The stock market might dip or real estate values might fluctuate, but once you acquire these skills, no one can ever take them away from you. They act as a massive shovel, allowing you to dig up more capital to buy the other 6 assets we just talked about.
Which leaves us with one final provocative thought to wrap up this explainer. What is the one high-income skill you are going to invest in today? You now know the 7 assets that make millionaires. You understand the formula. But remember, knowledge without application is really just entertainment. So pick a skill, invest in yourself, and start building your ultimate asset immediately. Thank you so much for learning with me today.